rationalists. It all boils down to the rational argument of which is more important to you. Moving that arrow a notch or two to the right, or spending your time, whether correctly or no, dividing a house against itself.
Oh, come on. You knew it was coming. I'm going to skip over the irony, because people have already pointed out the irony of you quoting Abraham Lincoln, missing out the fact that Abraham Lincoln was quoting the Bible. Quoting the Bible as a way of trying to, as a metaphor. Is that what it was, Thunderfoot? And this pendulum of, and every time we criticise people, rightly or wrongly, really, Thunderfoot, if you agree with the idea that we should hold back anything to criticise each other, because by criticising each other we're swinging the pendulum in favour of the enemy. If you believe that, don't you dare ever go up to a theist and say to them that, oh, atheists are not a group, we're individuals, we only agree on one thing, and that's the non-belief in God. And also, Thunderfoot, I don't want to hear you ever criticising Muslims for saying they don't speak out against their own. They never call out others, even though they fucking do, as I've explained in other videos. When you're sat there now complaining and whining again that atheists have made complaints against you, you do realise that by saying that we shouldn't criticise you, you are criticising us. So by saying, when you do that, you've just swung the pendulum, Thunderfoot, by your own logic. Not that you seem to have any left these days. And can you get this idea out of your fucking head that just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you're rational by everything? You call yourself a rationalist? By whose logic are you rational? By whose fucking standards are you rational? Your own, aren't you? Everyone thinks that they're rational, Thunderfoot. Doesn't mean that they are. And also, people are not either rational or irrational. There are people, and on each issue or idea, they might be rational or irrational, and they could be rational about a lot of ideas and irrational about many others. Or they could be irrational on maybe one, and rational on most. But no one person is rational or irrational. I'd also like to point out the fact that you contradict yourself beautifully in this video by going about religion is homogenous. It's all the same. And then you talk about 30,000 different denominations of Christianity. Well, then it's not. It's clearly not it's different, innit? There's clearly variances there. And I didn't give a shit really about the Shepherd video. Who gives a flying fuck? But you sit there and go, well, I'm just proving that you can interpret it any way you want. Yeah, we know that, Thunderfoot. We get that. Christians already know this. Christians already know there are different ways you can interpret it. Thank you for stating the blinding fucking obvious. Now, how about instead of telling people what they believe and what you think this means and that they should think that that's what it should mean, how about you actually discuss what they believe it means, or what they believe things mean? You know when a creationist says, hey, you just believe we all came from monkeys, You know, does that get you anywhere? No, because that's not what you believe, is it? So what's the point in fucking discussing it? But I want to talk about this pendulum swinging and we shouldn't criticise each other. You know, Thunderfoot, when you make an argument or you put your opinion forward, whether you like it or not, there are going to be elements and people who you do not agree with and who you do not like, who will align themselves with you on that issue. You think that I should care about the house of atheism? Who the fuck? Why should you get to say anything you want and no one criticise you? But when we say what we think, you have to sit there and tell us to shut up. For a guy who sits there and talks about critical thinking and freedom of speech to sit there and infer that either you shouldn't exercise critical thinking, or if you do and you find out there's something wrong, just keep your mouth shut about it, please. This isn't about a house being divided. This isn't about us doing damage to a cause. What cause did we when I came to YouTube, what cause did I sign up for? I come on here primarily and I divide people up essentially into two different groups. Right? There are those who are cunts and those people who are acting like cunts. And then there are those who are not cunts, or those people who are acting like cunts. If you're in this group, consider yourself on notice. I don't give a fuck who you are, what group you're part of, what cause you're fighting for ultimately. What the fuck? If you're being a cunt, that's it. If you happen to at some point flop back into this group, I'm fine with you. I'm cool. I don't care. If anyone from this group saunters on over into this group, that's a problem for me. You know, Thunderfoot, I make a lot of videos on here about nationalism and nationalist groups, white supremacist groups, far-right political organisations. And the reason I do that is because I consider them a threat. I consider them a greater threat to the values and the freedoms in this country. Now, when you did Draw Mohammed Day, can you take a guess as to what kind of organisations jumped on that like fuck, were all over that shit like white on rice? What, do you know who they were? Yeah, the BNP. They fucking loved Draw Mohammed Day. They jumped on it, they promoted it, and if you read your comments sections, you'll go and see that there are lots of BNP supporters who are loving it. The EDL were another one. They loved it. The National Front, Le Front National, every far-right fucking racist group who fucking wanted to jump on it, because it was basically, let's be a bigot. It's like, it's get out of jail free card for being a bigot day. That's what it was, for them. And they jumped on that and aligned themselves with you. Most of these people are fundamentalist Christians. So whilst you think that you might have been fighting for freedom and pulling the pendulum towards the rationality of society, what you were actually doing at the same time was pulling the pendulum towards that of fascism and nationalism and racism. Whether you like it or not. I didn't appreciate that. Whilst I thought Draw Mohammed Day was not necessarily a great idea, I didn't call for it to be banned or boycotted. All I did was put forward my idea as to why I think there's a certain edge to this which is counterproductive. And in your Blog TV discussion, Thunderfoot, with D. Landon Cole, he asked you, do you realise about all these unsavoury elements, these far-right, white supremacist, racist, nationalistic, borderline fucking diet Nazis who are aligning themselves with you and who are supporting you on this cause? And you said, yes, you were well aware of it, but you didn't care about it because it simply boosted your message and it gave you more coverage and increased the numbers of people behind you. That sounds very much like a, what was it you called it? An alliance of convenience. Ignoring the extremists who you are aligned with through some ideological purpose simply because it makes your cause a little bit more fucking substantial. Yeah, let's unite under a non-belief, shall we? This house isn't divided, Thunderfoot, because I was never in your fucking house. You know, telling people on the internet not to criticise you, Thunderfoot, is like putting jam on a picnic table hoping it will keep the ants away. If I want to listen to some hypersensitive, pretentious, arrogant arsehole complain about how it's unfair that he's being criticised, and then at the same time ask for money, I'll go to fucking church, son. Richard the Dick Coughlin, 000. Good night, may God be less.